camera off, and I think Leah, maybe if people come on at a later stage, if you can maybe just let them know as well.
Sure.
Thank you. Yeah.
Yep.
So my name is Haujin, and I'm based in Ōtautahi, Christchurch, Aotearoa, New Zealand. So I'm one of the co-leads of CCNet Australia and Aotearoa New Zealand regional network, alongside Leah, who's on the call today, and Saras, who is unable to join us today. Both of them are based in Australia. So I would actually like to kick this session off with a karakia, since I'm based in New Zealand, to get us into the headspace of what we're doing today, since all of us are gathered here today. So for those of you who are not familiar, karakia loosely translated means prayer. So it is widely used nowadays in New Zealand to ensure a favourable outcome to important events and undertakings. So it helps clear a little bit of the messiness, just clears everything and focus what we're doing at the moment. So here's the karakia. Whakataka te hau ki te uru, whakataka te hau ki te tonga, kia mā kinakina ki uta, kia mā taratara ki tai, I he ehi ake ana te atakura, he tio, he huka, he hauhu, ti he maoriora. So translation is: seize the winds from the west, seize the winds from the south, let the breeze blow over the land, let the breeze blow over the ocean, let the red-tipped dawn come with a sharpened air, a touch of frost, a promise of a glorious day. So I chose this karakia because we will be talking about the ocean. So while it is not frosty at the moment, it is very tied to sending out the waka into the sea. And so we will be talking about the ocean management and planning by using the conservation standards to help in the process. So we will have around 30 minutes of presentation, where our lovely presenter, Luca, whom I will introduce shortly, will be touching on how Conservation International has been helping shape national policies and strategies of countries and management plans through the use of conservation standards, and also how Conservation International have managed to integrate this wonderful tool as a course within a tertiary institution in New Zealand. And then after that, we will spend about 15 minutes for Q&A if time allows. So a little bit about our lovely presenter. Luca is the Program Manager, Delivery and Strategy for the Pacific Islands Program at Conservation International. He's been with CI for 7 years and specializes in project management, strategy development, and project technical assistance. He's originally from Italy, but now calls Auckland home. So now I will hand over the floor to you, Luca.
Thank you, Jean, and kia ora, everybody. It's really happy to be here and present a bit what I've been doing with open standards, with conservation standards in the past years and currently as well. So I'm going to share my presentation now, and hope it's going to. Perfect. Yeah, can you all see it? Yeah, sweet, perfect. So the presentation for today is really about it's focused on ocean planning and everything, but my job is not only on ocean, but for this purpose I try to make it more on the ocean planning and management. As Arjun said before, I work CI now for 7 years. And I work mainly in the Pacific Islands as a program manager, but also in the I also supported some other field divisions in Conservation International, like also in the Americas and in Asia. And I'm going to give you a pretty broad overview of how I've been using open standards in my job. So So I divided kind of the presentation in 5 main parts. So we'll talk firstly about how I use open standard conservation standards for ocean national policies or strategies. Then we'll talk more about conservation international institution with the development of country strategies. And then MPA management plan using a case study in Timor-Leste. And then the university course. So I've been teaching open standards for 3 years within a master course at University of Auckland. And finally, yeah, how I use conservation standards also for a project proposal and design. And please, given that we are a pretty small group, interrupt me whenever you feel, and I'm happy to answer to any questions. So, regarding ocean national policies and strategies, I was lucky enough to be involved in the development of a Samoa Ocean strategy back in 2019. That was co-developed between CI and the Ministry of Natural Resources and Environment in Samoa. So this is like a strategy for the integrated management of the whole marine domain of Samoa. So from 0 to 200 nautical miles. And it's a strategy of 10 years. So, and CI, in partnership with the government of Samoa, we co-developed this strategy, which took more or less 1 year, and now is a national policy endorsed by the government. Also, it went through Parliament, and this one also was in support to their national commitment of a 30 by 30 by the government of Samoa. So this doesn't replicate any or substitute any other acts or policy regarding the marine space, but it just kind of support all the other policies from fisheries to coastal development that is happening in Samoa. So I'm going to give a pretty overview on the process, but also the elements of the strategy. And yeah, we used conservation standards to develop it. So this is the one that you see on the right. It's kind of the process that we used for developing the strategy. So we started in May 2019 with a first national consultation with just the ministries of the government of Samoa. So in total, there's been 3 national consultations. So basically with all the key partners, so from government ministries and organizations, but also with NGOs and IGOs. And also we did 2 rounds of consultation with communities. So one in Upolu, which is the main island, and another one in Savaii, in which we kind of presented the strategy when it was in the middle of the development, in order to have comments and inputs on the strategy and integrate their comments. And then finally, we did a last workshop, which was a validation of the whole strategy. And then the SOS, so the Samoa Ocean strategy, was endorsed and passed the Parliament, and now is a national policies. So, and on the left is basically the outline of the strategy. So you can see pretty clearly how it's structured. It's followed the kind of conservation standards step by step. You see there is a vision, there is a geographic scope. Also, we changed a bit of the kind of names. The prioritized thematic areas are the targets. So from offshore to maritime safety, security, species of special interest, and so on. Then threats divided in main categories, so fishing, pollution, and sustainable development. And then finally, the main initiatives, which we called integrated management solutions, which are also divided in categories. And also in Annex 3, we had indicators for each of the goals. This is the integrated management solutions that we identified. And so it was 13 in total, and we divided in kind of main components or strategic priorities. And then for each one of them, we created result chains and objectives that I show you just in the next slide. And all these initiatives, given that it's an integrated management of the ocean, is not only focused on conservation, of course, but it ranges from, governance and coordination, financing, awareness and capacity building, policy, monitoring, surveillance, and so on. And this is an example of how we kind of structured and showed the initiatives. So instead of presenting the result chain itself, we, after many consultations with the main ministries, especially, they felt that objectives and goals in a table would be the perfect way of showing it. So basically, the result chains being transformed in a table format in which you have the targets, so the thematic areas associated to the initiative, and the objectives and goals for that specific result chain. So for each of the 13 integrated management solution, we developed a result chain and then objectives. So yeah, that's basically one example of how we use the conservation standards for a national policy on ocean management. Right now, also working on a roadmap, on a blue economy roadmap for Tokelau, in which I'm kind of using the same approach, but of course with different thematic areas, which are more concentrated on the economic side. So yeah, this is just to say that you can use conservation standards for so many ways in the development of national strategies and policies. So the next topic is about how I developed the strategies within our domestic programs and national programs here in the Pacific Islands. CI has physical presence, so offices in 5 countries, so Fiji, New Caledonia, Samoa, Timor-Leste, and Palau. And for each of these countries, I co-developed the strategy, a 5-year strategy, which is aligned to the Pacific Island strategy. So in this way, Pacific Island strategy, which is another 5-year strategy, which is aligned to the institutional CI strategy, then each of the countries that we have under the Pacific Islands program are aligned to that. And the one that you see in the bottom are the main kind of thematic areas that I try to align for each of our national program strategies. So ocean protection, fisheries, the rich reef, so basically it's coastal and terrestrial integrated management, and then cultural heritage, which is aligned to traditional values and traditional approaches to ocean management. The strategy format that I use usually is I'm doing like a prep work with the CI team remotely, and then I go to the country and we do a 3 days workshop, just internal, so just CI team, and then 1 day is just with partners in which we show the strategy and what we want to focus on, and we receive comments and inputs from the national partners in order to align with their priorities, but also do not replicate whatever they do. During these strategy sessions, I divide the team usually in marine team and terrestrial team, and we focus mainly on geographic scope, goals, situation analysis, interventions, result chains, and objectives. And the final product that I usually do is a strategy package. So you have all the elements of the strategy, plus a result framework with a M&E system in place, and also presentation slides for internal purposes, but also for partners or external audience, and also one pager. So basically, it's a easier version of a strategy without any internal and many processes inside. So yeah, that's the part on the national, like more institutional way of using conservation standards in development of country programs. And now here I'm going to show you the use of conservation standards for developing an MPA management plan. I'm going to use Timor-Leste as a case study. So it's a project that is currently in implementation in Timor-Leste and is led by the CI Timor-Leste team. And I went there to train the CI Timor-Leste team on how to use conservation standards to develop the MPA management plan. And also they will basically lead on, they have, I think, 15 MPAs to do a management plan. So they are in implementation phase right now. So the process was in pre-consultation. So I identify the main targets, the main threats, the contributing factors, and also created a MPA management plan outline using scientific reports or any other scientific studies that have been within the MPAs. I conducted a team training, so both for the CI team, but also partners, which in this case was the Ministry of Fisheries, Ministry of Agriculture, and Ministry of Environment. So we did 1 week training, and it was like a train of trainers. So basically how to use confidently the conservation standards framework, but mainly specific to MPA. And then we did 1 week of community consultation in which we did the whole MPA management plan development. And finally, after the community consultation, sit down with the team again and basically put together all the elements of the plan. During the MPA community consultation, we had 4 full days with a community on the east side of Timor-Leste, which is called Kuzukom. In this case, the whole session was led by the government partners with me and the CI Timor-Leste in support. There were more or less 40 community members, and they were representative of different community organizations, so from women organizations to conservation organizations, fisheries organization. And during the consultation, they have been divided in 3 small groups according to their expertise and interest. And we did 4 full days during which they developed all the elements of the MPA. Basically, we covered all the classic steps of conservation standards, but we add some steps related mainly to marine protected area. So we add a session on MPA regulation. So when we did the threat ratings and ranking, then we kind of selected the main ones, the main threats, and basically based on that we developed the MPA regulations. Then we did a session on protection objectives. So how much of the MPA area was to be as a no-take. So that one we were based on the targets from an ecological perspective. So then we identified how much percentage of each of the targets needed to be protected. And so we came up with a percentage of no-take. And then finally, we did 2 sessions on zoning, one on the based on threats, so on where all the harmful human activities were taking place within the MPA, and then one other zoning mainly on the MPA areas. So what is the no-take, what is the mixed use, and where there is like basically everything allowed. So this is basically the whole process that we use for the MPA management plan, and I'm happy to answer any questions that we have on that. The next one is about how we've been using conservation standards for a university course. So CI, together with the University of Auckland, we co-developed a master course on ocean governance and planning, which started in 2019. Yes, in 2019, and is still going on right now, and is within the master course in marine conservation. So this course is a 5 days intensive course. So it's just 5 days consecutively of intense front teaching. The first 3 days is all about the global and regional ocean governance. So going from the global big frameworks, and then also focalizing on how the Pacific Islands region, for example, manage the ocean, and also at national level, so using examples. And then the many planning tools that have been using to ocean management, so from marine spatial planning to MPAs to integrated coastal management, and then also one part regarding how to develop a management plan for a marine protected area. And then the last 2 days, it's a conservation standards workshop, so in which all the students are giving a real case scenario, and they basically develop a strategy on that. So during these 2 days, I give them, for example, a real case scenario, but usually I use a Lao seascape strategy, which is an area in Fiji in which they've been established a large-scale MPA, and there is a Lao seascape strategy in place, which is a 10-year strategy. So I usually give them a summary before the course starts, just highlighting the main thematic areas or important threats, and basically I'm going through each of the steps with them. And in basically 2 days, we're going to do targets, SMART goals, threats rating, situation analysis, interventions, and result chains. And then at the end of the 2 days, basically they report to what they've done, and we mark them according to how well they contributed in the group, but also as a group itself. And that has been going on. Yeah, this is the 4th year we're doing it, and it's always like great to see how students are really creative and they get the process so quickly. And finally, this is the last piece on how I use conservation standards in project proposal and design. Usually we do, every time we try to bid for a project within CI, we do a 2 days workshop, which can be in person or remotely. And we started with analyzing targets and goals based on the project proposal itself. And most importantly, we go then deep down on the stresses and threats. Threats only if it's marine conservation related. If not, we're going to just analyzing the stresses, so the main ecological impacts. Then we focus mainly on barriers. So whatever is a contributing factors, but directly related to the targets. So what are the barriers that doesn't permit us to reach that goal? Then we go initiatives, result chains, and objectives. And then the main, basically, project proposal design outputs that I use then for open standards to create a theory of change based on the result chain and situation analysis. And then a result framework that this one is based on the objectives that we develop within the result chain. And this one permits me then to do a pretty clear logical framework in which you have a M&E system in place. I think it was pretty quick, not 30 minutes, but almost. And yeah, thank you so much. I'm really happy to talk more through and yeah, get any questions that you are. Thank you.
Kia ora, Luca. That was so interesting, and I am so fascinated by what you have been presenting. I have a couple of questions myself, but I think I'd like to open the floor to people, to others, to see if they have any first.
Feel free to raise your hands or unmute yourself and
or
or
come
pop
on
questions
camera.
in the chat. Yeah.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah, I've got a couple of questions too, Hajin. So maybe we'll tag team. You go first and then I'll go next.
Yeah, yeah. Well, why don't I kick off the Q&A then, since, Luca, we did so great in keeping to the time, and you've actually managed to keep it to under half an hour. So probably just the first thing, this is probably something that is quite basic, but maybe important to people adopting the conservation standards. How was your process like? How was your in relationship like, especially with government of Samoa, was that you did the policy strategy for? How did you bring them along the journey? Yeah, if you could elaborate on that a little bit, and also maybe also just touch on a little bit on how did you convince CI as an organization to use the conservation standards, because that's what I think a lot of us would be very interested in learning.
Yeah, thank you, Jean. So Conservation International doesn't really use conservation standards as their institutional tool. So basically, it's mainly used by me in the Pacific region. For the Samoan strategy, there was a long, a really about relationship with our, local team there in Samoa, and also our ex-leader of the CI Pacific Islands program, Suta, having really a really good relationship with the government. So they were really at a certain point asking us. So they were in developing of doing this strategy at national level, and so they chose us to developing. And then so we organized a meeting with them in which I presented the structure of conservation standards. We discussed together on how to adapt it to the Samoan context. So actually, it was like a series of meetings before they really agreed on the methodology. But again, that's all about relationship on the ground and how much trust you can build behind the scenes. So then it was pretty easy to then show exactly what we have in mind, and they agreed on the process because we really highlighted that we provide a framework. So everything that you put inside, it's your strategy. So all the information that the strategy will show is basically from partners and from Samoan people, not from CI. So they really liked that approach, and exactly what we're doing also in our region. That I always present this framework as just a framework, just a strategic places holder where it's easy to put information, but everything that is inside the strategy is yours, and that creates buy-in from communities to government to other partners. Yeah.
Thank you, Luca. I think that's what I've been hearing as well from a lot of other colleagues as well.
Thank you.
Yeah, Luca, I have a question about for the ocean strategy, Samoa ocean strategy, and you had that diagram of the different islands feeding up into the Pacific Islands strategy. And how do you make sure they align, and that, do you make sure the indicators and objectives and things, that when you're doing that work with a group, like with a particular island, like how do you make sure it's feeding in and not contradictory? And yeah, just any learnings on that part of the process when you're trying to, you know, scale it up?
Absolutely. No, that's a great question. Yeah. In order to make it like the proper alignment, I never go like I just use the institutional indicators to align, and then the objectives and the outcomes, they are indicators that are relevant just for the country. But then when you reach the goal is aligned to the Pacific Island strategy, and the goals of the Pacific Island strategy is aligned to the institutional strategy. So it doesn't matter how you reach that goal, but because it doesn't matter how you reach that, because the goal is aligned. So in for example, when I do Samoa, at least the main 4 goals by 2030 are exactly the same indicator of the Pacific Island strategy. But then, you know, when we develop the result chains and you have objectives during the result chain, that doesn't matter if they're aligned on the Pacific Island strategy. The main important thing is that at the end, we reach that goal. So in that way, you have freedom, and also freedom to apply whatever is in the national situation. So you don't limit yourself. For example, in projects in Samoa or New Caledonia, the most important thing that, for example, for ocean protection, we have a certain amount of square kilometers of ocean managed or new. And that one is the same for each of the country. But how you reach that, improved management or new LSMPA, it doesn't really matter, because that follows a national process, but then they aiming for that. So in that way, if you keep like just the high level, you're able to align it better. I don't know if I was clear. I think I have to show you.
Yeah, no, I think I get most of that, and it makes sense. But it sounds like, just to clarify, that the indicators, so the goals are aligned, but the how and what you actually measure are different. So that's specific to a place. And so then that Pacific Island strategy might actually be measuring different indicators and doing things a bit differently to what's happening at the actual island to give you that flexibility. Yeah. Right. Yeah.
Exactly. That's, for example, for the Pacific Islands, we have 18 million square kilometers of improved ocean space management. So that one, like New Caledonia, maybe is like 5 million. And how you get to that 5 million, it really depends on the process that you have in New Caledonia. So the outcomes are different for each of the country, but then the goal is the same. So you're just aiming for that. And same for fisheries, same for basically forest or coastal. So if you keep the kind of high level goal really similar to each one of the country, then you got flexibility. You don't have to really worry about alignment, because then the end product of your 5 years is the same for each of the country. But how you get there can be, super different.
And it needs to be, I imagine, right? Like,
yeah, and also because you really need to pay attention on each of the different politics that are in place in each nation, and the process are really different, and also how CI as an institution really fit in that process, constantly change in each different country and situation. So you have to be really flexible. So yeah, what I found really, really useful is just to have, the main indicator as the kind of main alignment. The rest of the result chains or like objectives, it's really about the country itself. But I'm happy to show you that one.
Thanks, Luca.
Luca, I have a couple of quick comments. All of the material from the work you outlined there. Is it all available now in the Marathi? Can we access that from the Marathi SharePoint?
No, yeah, unfortunately, because in CI we don't use Marathi Share. I don't. We don't have like an account to share things. I'm working on it though. I'm working on it. But I'm really happy to send you all the materials if it's feasible. Yeah. But yeah, unfortunately we don't use Marathi Share.
And I think we all know from experience in the Pacific that the fishing industry, both within each Pacific Island country and internationally, is huge. How were they involved in your? Did you involve them at all, or how did you solicit their input into these strategies?
Yeah, no, that's a great question, Bruce. We in each of the country that CI has a presence, we recognized how important is involved fisheries in the process, especially in the ocean management and conservation. So in each of the country, we have a MOU with the Ministry of Fisheries, which that permits us to collaborate with them and also sharing data, which is incredible because not a lot of Ministry of Fisheries do. But then, again, comes with trust and a lot of work in the closed door. In each of the strategies that we do, fisheries is always involved, and not only ministry but also private sectors. So private companies of fisheries like in Fiji, in New Caledonia, also now in Palau, and Samoa as well. So we always involve them and always invite them because without them it's impossible to have an integrated management approach in the ocean space. But I think also it's changed the approach of fisheries toward conservation and protection. We saw it in the last years how more accommodating they are toward let's say conservationist. It always depends how you treat them and how you present yourself to the fisheries departments, and also now private sectors are really interested in make their activities more sustainable because they see that it's also lucrative if the ocean is healthy. So it's really fantastic to see in the last years how environmental NGOs and fisheries work really well together right now. It's not always easy, but it's working from now.
Good, thanks.
Thank you, Bruce.
And there's a comment there from Bridget saying that it sounds like a very participatory process and interesting to see how you've scaled up from national to regional.
Yeah, thank you. It's Pacific. I have to say that Pacific Islands program within CI is the only one that has a regional strategy, and each of the country has a strategy. So now other programs are getting interested in doing that. But it wasn't always easy, and it's really about also leadership. Leadership were interested in having that one, and it always comes from proactivism from the field as well to offer these kind of things, because sometimes leadership don't think about it, but they are now seeing how important is everything aligned, and also at national and local level how your work is more mainstreamed, and also in terms of scalability. You can see how many projects and interventions were similar between the countries, and we didn't even know. So even just the process of doing the strategy on national levels and having a regional role like me, sometimes I was just doing something in Samoa, and it was really similar to New Caledonia. So then I said, "Oh, but New Caledonia knows that you're doing this," and they said, "Oh no, oh, okay." So it's also like a great process to alignment, also from capacity building point of view. So I find it really useful also from an institutional level, having this kind of cascade of information where from national level to institutional level is everything aligned, and it's also helping us a lot on project development, and also from communication team. So now they know exactly what each country is doing it, and from the development team as well. So every time they have to, write a proposal and everything, they don't have always to ask the country, but they can just look at the strategy and just draft in something. So it saves time, and everything that you do is monitored. So yeah, we found it like now we are in the next phase, which is the implementation with all the strategies in place. So we'll see if it's really effective. But for now, it's been a great process. Again, it's not easy, but yeah, it's worth it. But to do all 5 countries, it took me 1 year more or less to do everything, because again, you have to have the whole team there available for 3 to 4 days, and it's not easy, and and also prepare all the stuff. So yeah, it took a bit, but yeah, it's worth it.
And that probably doesn't, that 1 year of your time, there would have been years of lead up too, right? Like all of the MOUs and all that relationship building stuff. Like by the time you're actually kind of sitting down and working with people, a whole lot of stuff has happened beforehand.
Exactly. And also, the strategy development is just one part of my job description. I now mainly doing like delivery, program and project implementation, but so I'm dividing my role in these 2 parts, and also like more on M&E now. So yeah, it's it's not easy, but yeah, it's good. And again, it depends really about how strong your team is and the relationship that your team has with government and other partners.
One of the things I'm always interested in, Luca, is how successful we are in terms of the workshops and the work we do to really understand the perverse incentives and the patronage and corruption that is such a big part of the big industrial threats to the environment. And do you get down to that very important not detail, that's a fundamental when you're doing your planning, because that's where the rubber hits the road in many places?
Well, like for example, for the Samoan strategy, we couldn't say overfishing. The word overfishing was banned. So during the workshop, we couldn't say overfishing. So there was a lot of pushback, of course, from the Ministry of Fisheries, because they could, they keep saying, no, we are, our fisheries in healthy, and we are doing sustainable fisheries and everything. So I think there is a lot of negotiations to do as well. But the most important is that you work in the same toward the same goal. So of course, especially the fisheries industries, at the end of the day, they want to have money, right? So, but if they can have money with less effort and having more sustainable, I think it's great. But it takes so many meetings, and it takes so many effort to convince them to that is the right way. And it's still a lot of things to do, it's probably just the beginning. But just to see that they are interested to even have a dialogue and work with, an environmental organization, that's already again a step forward. But of course, to go back to your point, some of the stuff you have to omit, in a sense, corruption and everything. It's something that is still sensitive, and it's still a problem. But what I found is that the main problems comes from the foreign vessels, not from the domestic fisheries, at least in the Pacific. So now even the whole domestic fisheries or domestic vessels in each of the Pacific Islands program are trying to be more sustainable, also from a social point of view. But I think, at least in the Pacific, the main problem are the foreign vessels coming in, because they don't adhere to the national regulations sometimes. And it's difficult to monitor. And, in the Pacific, it's crazy the amount of square kilometers that you have to cover. So it's always not, super easy. And in fact, like in each of our strategies or like program, like surveillance is always the things that comes on mind. But you need money to surveil all that body of water.
Yeah, I liked your comment that you used quite often. It's not easy.
It's not easy.
If it was easy, it would all be done by now.
Yeah.
Exactly. We wouldn't need it, like
No.
any environmental NGOs would be done. So
Yeah. We used to always say, it will all be all right in the end. And if it's not all right, it's not the end yet.
Exactly. It's a long way to go.
Look, I just want to circle back a little bit on some of the comments and questions that was made regarding the level of specificity, level of detail when you do your theory of change and your situation analysis. How do you find, like, when you're working at the sort of like the policy level, how difficult it is to sort of kind of stop where you think it's just right and you don't go into too much detail? Can you share with us a little bit, compared to the other sort of more on the ground work that you facilitated before?
Yeah. No, thank you. Yeah, that's a great question. I think, well, from my end, I discovered, like, I never really pushed too much. Like, situation analysis is always easier, I say, because when you talk about the present and the problems that are in the area, like especially communities, they are like an avalanche of information. When you start thinking about the future, and starting building result chains, I never push it too much because I just need to understand what they want to do and just focus on the process. And then it's just enough for me to then build the result chain post-consultation, and then having a lot of meetings with them with already the result chain there and receiving comments and inputs. Because sometimes, like, it's difficult in a workshop settings to have the perfect result chain and like exactly doing the logic. So I just need to understand from them what they want to do and how the process in that condition is, and it's just for me then to really build afterwards and then present it back to them and really go through, because I noticed that it's much better, not only at community level but at any level, to just have ideas of what they want to do, and then us that we live and breathe, conservation standards to really dig up in the details and then present it back. So then it's easier for them to see it complete and then having inputs and comments. So again, because in 2 to 3 hours, really having the perfect result chain, it's never happened in the history, probably. So I never really push too much. I just need to have just some inputs and some comments from them on what they want to do. So even when they I leave it alone and in the groups, and then come up with result chain, even if it's not perfect. I don't care. And it's really also, I would say, in the workshop situation, to never go too much in details. I think for a result chain, well, it also depends, right? It depends by the project and everything. But I think for result chain at strategy level, it really needs to go on the process of how you do things, not on the really tiny details. It's just the process. So yeah, that's my kind of level of details during the workshop. So, and yeah, I never push it too much on that.
Thanks, Luca. That's very helpful, and that's also a good reminder of all of us as well, when we sometimes we get to focus to get the right kind of information at the end when we do the thing, instead of viewing it as a iterative process where we can do it in the first cut and then come back again, in a couple of times to look at it in a different lens.
Yeah.
So yeah. Thank you, Luca.
Thank you. Yeah, I was always also find it really helpful to also go to a workshop or whatever it is, right? If it's a national strategy or a program strategy or CI, to already something drafted before, at least to get the start. I find it really helpful, especially also for especially the goals and stuff. Sometimes I don't know. I see always sometimes like a bit of confusion between the goals and initiative. So now this is your end product in the 5 years, but so it's not the intervention. So if I go there with something already kind of drafted, that helps a lot. And it's much easier to facilitate that process.
Yeah, thank you, Luca. That's really sort of just gems in your experience working in the Pacific. When you commented it took a year for you to finish 5 countries, I was like, that's really fast. But considering the work that you've put in prior to that, that's that's not only just 1 year. Yeah.
Or maybe they're crap strategies. I don't know. But it takes a lot of effort. But yeah, and yeah, it's like the length of the workshop. I usually was doing like the full week, but I realized that 3 days is more than enough to have what you need. And I see people after 3 days are smashed. So I don't know how much information you can get out also after 3 days. And again, you don't have to make it perfect every time. These 3 days, it just needs like a skeleton, right? So I mean, at 3 days you have also more time to side chats and other meetings. So yeah.
Is there any other questions? Maybe if not, then I think it's 4 minutes to the hour. So I think possibly if you have any other questions that you think of after today or after the session, then you're most welcome to reach out to Luca or any one of us in the committee. I'm happy to answer them.
I've got a quick one. Do you mind?
Yes.
Sorry. For those marine strategies, where do you get your baseline resource information, like biodiversity, coral reef health, fish quantity, all the stuff you need to fold in to really start shows you how old I am, conservation standards, state of conservation for the site. Where do you look for that stuff?
So, well, for example, I usually first interview my local team. So if it's strategy in Timor-Leste, I'll go to my marine team and we sat down and I asked them to send me all the information that they have on biodiversity. If not, if we have an MOU, for example, with the government that we usually have, we just go directly to the Ministry of Environment or Fisheries and ask for information regarding that. And if there is no baseline, then it's easy to have an intervention, which is collecting baseline. So I was, use that one. But yeah, again, baseline is always the most difficult part, right? And that, it's just also difficult to have goals if you don't have baseline. So sometimes, if you don't have baseline, your main intervention is to collect those baseline data. And especially in the marine areas. From coastal, probably, way more information is than when it comes to the offshore ecosystems. It's the baseline information are ridiculously low. So again, it comes on. It comes on a
magic answer. Thanks a lot.
Thank you, Bruce.
Well, thank you very much. I think, Luca, that was very, very interesting, very, very insightful for a lot of us who, for me at least, who mainly work on the terrestrial part of the world. So to have a glance in your world, that was really, really great, and how you applied the conservation standards. I would like to follow up with you on how you actually worked with Auckland University to have that course. So I'll follow up with you offline on this.
Absolutely.
Yeah. So thank you very much, Luca, for being with us today and sharing your experience. And thank you all for joining us today. That we've been enjoying. Hope that you have enjoyed and learned a little bit more today. So I'll close the session with karakia as well. So kia whakaira he te tapu, kia wātia ai te ara, kia ai, kia turuki whakataha ai, haumie huie taikie. So it means restrictions are moved aside, so the pathways is clear to return to your everyday activities. So enjoy enjoy the rest of your day, and hope to see you again at our next webinar session. So could the committee members please stay on a little bit longer? Thank you. And for the rest of you,
Luca.
thank you.
That's great.
Bye.
Good to see the rest of you.
Thank
Good
you.
to see you, Sean, Kelly.
Bye-bye.
Stop recording here.
Oh, yeah, thanks. Oh, Beck, I think that might be you.